Have you ever found yourself drawn to someone unexpected, even when you know you shouldn't? Meet Tom, a devoted husband and father whose life takes a surprising turn when a stunning new neighbor moves in next door. As he grapples with his feelings, the line between friendship and temptation blurs, leading to moments that could change everything. What happens when desire collides with loyalty? Stay tuned to uncover the twists and turns of Tom's journey. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more captivating stories. Hello, I'm Tom, 37 years old, happily married to a wonderful woman named Sarah. And we have 2 children, Emily, who is 9, and Jake, who is 6. I work as a mechanic and have been at the same auto shop for nearly 12 years. It's not glamorous, but it provides for my family. We reside in a peaceful neighborhood just outside of Louisville. The type of place where you mow your lawn every Sunday. Neighbors greet each other as they pass by, and children ride their bikes until dusk. Honestly, my life is good, normal, and predictable. And sometimes that's the issue. You become so accustomed to the routine that you forget what it's like to be surprised by something or someone. About a month ago, the house next door, which had been vacant for some time, finally got new occupants. At first, I didn't think much of it. I just noticed a moving truck and assumed a family was moving in. But then I saw her standing in the front yard directing the movers while wearing an oversized hoodie and snug black leggings. She had long, wavy dark hair and was tall and slim. When she turned around, she looked like she had just stepped off a magazine cover. Later on, I learned her name was Emma. She's 26 and a professional model who moved here from LA seeking a quieter life. I didn't pry into her reasons. It wasn't my place to ask. But I won't deny that she caught a lot of attention on our street, especially mine. Initially, it was just little things. I'd see her from my garage while working on cars. She'd be outside in a tank top watering her plants, always barefoot and humming to herself. I didn't stare. Not at first, I merely noticed her presence. Then it became routine. I'd step outside for a smoke, or take out the trash and occasionally glance over at her. Sometimes she would be bending down to tend to a flower pot, or standing on tiptoes adjusting a hanging plant. She always appeared effortless, as if she were in a photo shoot, even when doing something as mundane as watering plants. And I despise myself for noticing every single time. I have a wife, a fantastic one at that. Sarah has stood by me through everything. 2 pregnancies, years when vacations were out of reach, and when I lost my father. She's the kind of woman who still leaves sweet notes in my lunchbox. She deserves more than some distracted fool with wandering thoughts. But try telling that to my eyes. One morning, about a week after Emma moved in, I was enjoying coffee on our front porch, while Sarah had already left for work and the kids were still asleep. Emma came outside with a watering can, dressed in tiny pajama shorts and a tank top that did nothing to conceal how stunning she looked. I told myself not to look. I even attempted to check my phone to scroll through emails and pretend to be busy. But then I glanced up for just an instant. That was all it took. She turned around mid-pour, caught me staring, and smiled a slow, knowing smile. Then she tilted her head slightly closer to the fence between our yards and said it clearly and calmly, as if it were completely normal. "Do you like what you see?" I froze with coffee halfway to my lips. Breath caught in my throat, my face probably turned bright red. I stammered something I don't even recall what exactly, maybe laughed it off or mumbled an apology before looking away. All I know is that I retreated inside right after that like a coward. Inside me churned this tight knot of guilt. shame, and something else I didn't want to acknowledge. Desire. But I couldn't let that feeling take root. I pushed it down hard, reminding myself of who I was and what I had. I wasn't some single guy with nothing at stake. I had a family and a life. Still, those 7 words she said kept echoing in my mind all day long. Do you like what you see? The next day after Emma spoke those words, I couldn't look away from her, not even by accident. I kept my head down, avoiding the porch altogether. Even took my coffee on the go, instead of sitting outside like usual. Yet no matter how hard I tried to shake it off, her confident, calm expression lingered in my thoughts, almost playful, as if she knew exactly what she was doing. Like this wasn't the first time she'd caught someone off guard with just one sentence. Of course I didn't tell Sarah about any of this. What could I say? Hey honey, the model next door noticed me looking at her legs and asked if I liked them. Pass the toast. No way I bottled it up, because that's what men do, right? That evening, while fixing a latch on the garden shed out back, I heard the side gate creak open behind me. Turning around revealed Emma holding a small bag of gardening tools. Hey, she said casually, as if nothing had happened the day before. Do you mind if I borrow a trowel? Mine broke. I nodded quickly, saying, yeah, sure, handing her one from the shed as she stepped closer than necessary. Not inappropriate, but close enough for me to catch the scent of her shampoo. She smiled again, but this time it felt softer. Curious, and tilted her head slightly, asking, You don't talk much, do you? I chuckled nervously, replying, Guess I'm more of a listener. Emma leaned against the side of the shed, twirling the trowel in her hand, as if it belonged there, saying, You always look like you've got a million thoughts going on in your head. Then she spoke, not in a flirty or teasing manner, but straightforwardly. I didn't intend to make you uncomfortable yesterday. I noticed you were looking. I wanted to respond, but I froze again, as if I had forgotten how to react. She wasn't upset or embarrassed. She was simply being truthful. I get looked at a lot, she continued. But there's a distinction. Most guys stare as if they want to possess you with their gaze. You seemed like you were recalling something. That struck me deeply. I was at a loss for words, because perhaps she was right. Maybe I was indeed remembering something, not a particular person or moment, but rather that feeling of connection when someone sees you and you see them, and everything else fades away. Clearing my throat, I said, Emma, I'm married and have kids. She smiled again and replied, I know. As she turned to leave, she paused at the gate and added, I'm not trying to disrupt anything, Tom. I'm just being honest. And just like that, she was gone, like she hadn't just dropped a truth bomb that would resonate in my mind for days. That night, sleep eluded me. I lay next to Sarah, listening to her breathe while watching the ceiling fan spin. It felt as though I was caught between 2 realities. In one, I was the man I've always been, faithful, grounded, responsible. In the other, I was someone different, someone tempted. The worst part was that I hadn't even acted on anything. Merely wanting it and contemplating it made me feel as though I had already crossed an unseen boundary. In the following days, I attempted to keep myself occupied, working extra hours at the shop and spending more time with the kids, anything to prevent my thoughts from drifting. But Emma made it challenging. She waved when I returned home from work and left a small basket of lemons from her tree on our porch, with a note saying it was for my wife, and hoping she would enjoy lemon pie. She wasn't being pushy. She was clever and subtle. She understood what she was doing. One afternoon, Sarah brought her up casually. "She's very sweet," Sarah remarked, while placing the lemons in the fruit bowl. "And she's beautiful too, like model beautiful." "She is a model," I said before realizing what I'd done. Sarah looked at me with amusement and asked if I'd Googled her or something. I shrugged. Emma had mentioned it. That night, while Sarah folded laundry, I found myself staring at my phone for 5 minutes, trying to convince myself not to message Emma, and ultimately didn't. Instead, I set the phone down and went outside to sit in the dark for a while. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that forces you to confront yourself. And what struck me while sitting there under the moonlight casting long shadows across our backyard was that I wasn't fully in control anymore. Something within me had been opened up that I hadn't even realized was delicate. I kept telling myself that I wasn't doing anything wrong. I hadn't touched her or texted her back or flirted. But neither had I said no or closed off any possibilities. Deep down, I understood she was waiting for my response to see which version of me would appear next time. The following week passed in a blur of contradictions as I pretended everything remained normal. Going to work, fixing cars, joking with colleagues in the garage. Coming home to play with the kids and kiss Sarah goodnight. Externally, I appeared unchanged. Internally, though, something had altered within me. Each time I'd walk past the window, I'd find myself glancing toward Emma's yard. Sometimes she'd be outside and sometimes not. When she was there, I'd quickly look away. But when she wasn't present, I'd feel an unwelcome disappointment. One afternoon, after coming home early from work, Sarah had taken the kids to a birthday party. The house felt eerily quiet. After changing out of my greasy work shirt, I went outside to water the front lawn under the hot, late summer sun. While standing there with the hose in hand, Emma's voice came from behind me. "Hey, neighbor!" Turning around revealed her standing by her side of the fence, wearing a sundress with thin straps and loose fabric, not scandalous, but somehow still felt excessive or perhaps insufficient. "I'm about to head out for groceries," she said. "Do you need anything?" Shaking my head, no, I replied. We were fine, but thanked her anyway. She smiled and leaned on the fence with her elbows propped up slightly forward, casual yet intentional. "You sure? You look like you could use something cold." Trying to keep my tone neutral, replied that I'm okay. Emma held my gaze for just a moment, too long before nodding, and saying as she walked back toward her driveway, "Well, if you change your mind?" Then, turning over her shoulder, added, "You know I'm not lying." Raising an eyebrow in curiosity about what she meant led her to smile again. "You have that look, like you're contemplating something you probably shouldn't be." With that remark made, she got into her car and drove away. I stood there for some time, holding onto the hose, watering grass that didn't require it anymore. Later that night, after putting the kids to bed and finding Sarah dozing off beside me on the couch again, outside under a full moon, I could hear sprinklers running down the street, along with occasional dog barks, while Emma's house remained dark without any lights on or movement inside. But my thoughts were loud as they replayed her words repeatedly. Not just what she'd said, but how she'd expressed it. The way she'd moved and looked at me, as if seeing more than just one's husband. And that's what frightened me most. How seen she made me feel, not merely as a father or husband, or even as someone who fixes broken things. As a man, I began to justify my actions, thinking I hadn't really done anything wrong. Perhaps I was merely flattering myself. Maybe she treated everyone this way, or was simply being friendly. The issue was that I didn't want her to be just friendly. The next time I encountered her was on a Saturday afternoon. Sarah had taken Emily to dance class, and Jake was napping inside. While I was trimming the hedges by the fence, I heard her door open. Emma stepped outside in workout attire, a water bottle in one hand and earbuds in. She waved, paused, and approached me. "Hey," she said. "Do you mind helping me with something quickly?" I hesitated, but then nodded in agreement. She guided me into her backyard where her sprinkler system had developed a leak, causing water to pool near the patio. I crouched down to inspect the pipe and offered her some tips on how to fix it temporarily until she could arrange for a replacement. Throughout this, I sensed her gaze on me, silent but observant. When I stood up, brushing dirt off my jeans and preparing to leave, she moved closer. "Tom," she said softly. I met her gaze. Her eyes were serious and calm as they locked onto mine. "If you weren't married," she began. But I interrupted her, stating firmly that I was married. My tone came out sharper than intended, yet Emma didn't flinch. She nodded slowly in acknowledgement. There was a pause that felt so prolonged it made me forget how to breathe. "I just like talking to you," she confessed. "You don't look at me like I'm a job or a fantasy. You see me as real." Her words struck me harder than anticipated, because part of me craved to hear that to need it. I remained silent, simply nodding before walking away. Once home, I washed my hands 3 times, as if trying to scrub away the moment from my skin. That evening, Sarah asked if everything was all right. I replied with a simple, "Yeah." She regarded me skeptically but didn't press further, for which I was thankful since I lacked the strength to articulate the turmoil brewing inside me. Neither Emma nor I had done anything wrong. However, we were teetering on the brink of something perilous, and I wasn't certain how many more steps I could take without stumbling. Sunday mornings in our household used to be cherished, moments filled with cartoons for the kids and pancakes sizzling on the stove, while Sarah hummed along to some 90s tune as she cooked. We may not have had much, but we enjoyed rhythm, familiarity, and peace. Yet that Sunday felt unreal, physically present while cutting fruit for the kids and flipping pancakes while nodding at whatever Jake rambled about. My mind drifted far away. Since yesterday, in Emma's backyard, her words echoed in my thoughts like an unringable bell. "You don't look at me like I'm a job or a fantasy. You see me as real." The most troubling part was that she was right. I did perceive her as real, and that frightened me. After breakfast, Sarah asked if I could take the kids to the park so she could catch up on laundry and tidy up the house. Without hesitation, I agreed, mainly because I needed space not from her, but from myself. At the park, while watching my children laugh and chase each other around the slides, my thoughts wandered elsewhere as I played a risky game in my mind where I envisioned what life would be like if circumstances were different. Without a ring on my finger or a wife waiting at home. Just being an unattached man next door without obligations. This self-loathing consumed me. Upon returning home, Sarah appeared more cheerful. She had lit a candle in the kitchen and had music playing softly. She looked relaxed for the first time in weeks. After kissing her cheek, however, it felt as though I were wearing someone else's skin. That evening, after putting the kids to bed, she poured us each a glass of wine and joined me on the porch. "You've been distant lately," she remarked, not accusatory but sincere. Remaining silent, she continued, "Is it work? Money? Shaking my head firmly indicated it wasn't that at all. Sarah looked at me expectantly, but finding no words within myself proved difficult. How do you explain to your beloved that another woman occupies your thoughts when nothing physical has transpired? So instead of honesty, I lied. It's just stress, nothing for you to worry about. She nodded slowly. Her expression showed doubt, yet no further questioning followed either. I'm here if you ever want to talk, she said gently, while placing her hand over mine a moment, when everything began shifting for me. A simple gesture of quiet support, representing real love, not fleeting excitement, but rather something that holds you together through years and reminds you of your true self. The following day brought another encounter with Emma. She was pulling weeds in her front yard with her hair tied back while wearing workout leggings and an old t-shirt. No makeup, just an ordinary person engaged in an ordinary task, yet still appearing out of place, as if fate had dropped her into this neighborhood just to complicate my life further. Spotting me walk toward the mailbox made her smile brightly. Hey, she greeted warmly. I owe you coffee for helping with the sprinkler. I shrugged dismissively. You don't owe me anything. She tilted her head slightly before suggesting we could consider it a neighborly get-together instead. Everything within urged me to agree, not due to coffee or attraction, but because part of me needed clarity about what this all meant for us both. But keeping that door ajar felt too risky, so instead replied firmly, I can't. Emma raised an eyebrow inquisitively. Because of her? I nodded affirmatively. Yes, because of her, and because of myself. For several seconds there was silence, before she slowly nodded back. I understand, she said genuinely, and for the first time since our introduction, I noticed something change within her expression. A softness, perhaps, even tinged with sadness, not due to rejection but rather understanding. However, since I was opting for something she lacked, commitment and family stability, I wasn't attempting to interfere with you, she said softly. I simply appreciated how you made me feel. That statement opened something within me because I truly understood it. I like the way you made me feel too, I confessed. But that isn't sufficient for me. She nodded again and then smiled, not the self-assured, flirty smile I was accustomed to, but a genuine one. At least I know there are still guys like you out there, she remarked. She turned and walked back to her home. No drama, no spectacle, just two individuals who encountered each other at an inopportune moment. That night, I told Sarah I wanted to take her out. The following weekend, just the two of us, no children, no errands, simply her and me like before. She appeared surprised, but smiled and said she would like that. As we lay in bed, I held her a bit tighter than usual, not out of guilt or fear, but because I realized I had nearly allowed something foolish to jeopardize something irreplaceable. And I wasn't going to let that occur. It had been an entire week since my last conversation with Emma, a quiet week, without any waves, lingering looks, or unexpected visits to borrow tools or offer coffee. Life's normal rhythm began to return, and for the first time in a while, I embraced it. Sarah and I went on that date as promised. We arranged for a babysitter and visited a small Italian restaurant we used to frequent when we first started dating. She wore a green dress that I hadn't seen in years, and I found myself thinking about how beautiful she looked, not just as the mother of my children or my wife, but as a woman I was fortunate to call mine. We laughed, conversed, and even flirted a bit over dessert. She leaned in and said, I've missed this. And so had I. more than I realized. For a time, I'd forgotten how much we had built together, not merely memories or routines, but trust, something I'd nearly shattered due to getting caught up in a fleeting moment that spiraled too far in my mind. It wasn't Emma's fault. Let me be clear about that. She didn't force anything or cross any boundaries that I didn't allow. Yet sometimes the risk lies not in what someone does, but in what they awaken within you. And she stirred something inside me that I thought was buried beneath bills, diapers, deadlines, and routine. The longing to feel seen, desired, and free. The following Saturday, while mowing the lawn, I saw her again. Emma. She was outside wearing jeans and a white t-shirt, with her hair pulled back into a messy bun, no makeup or games. This time she didn't wave or smile, but did look at me for just an instant. In that moment, I perceived countless things, perhaps even a hint of regret, not for what transpired, because nothing truly happened, but for what almost did. After finishing mowing the lawn and wiping sweat from my forehead, I walked toward the porch as she headed toward her car at the same time. Our paths didn't intersect, but our eyes did. I nodded. She nodded back, and that was all, no words or drama, just a quiet acknowledgement that something had existed between us but had run its course. That evening, Sarah and I watched a movie in bed. She fell asleep halfway through with her head on my chest and her hand resting lightly on my side. As I stared at the ceiling, silence enveloped me for the first time in weeks. My mind didn't wander. I didn't think about Emma or what ifs. I reflected on what I almost lost. There's this moment right before you do something irreversible, when your entire life flashes before your eyes. Not like in films, it's not dramatic. It's quiet stillness, as if someone pressed pause, and in that instant you realize what truly matters. For me, it was this: my daughter's laughter as she runs toward the sprinkler. My son's tiny hand slipping into mine when we cross the street. The way Sarah looks at me while brushing her teeth, trying to talk with foam filling her mouth. The aroma of pancakes on Sunday mornings. The creak of the bed when she turns over at night, pulling the blanket closer to her face. Those moments aren't glamorous. They won't make it onto magazine covers. But they're mine. They're real. And every time, they are what I choose. In the weeks that followed, Emma gradually faded from view. A for sale sign appeared in her yard. Rumors circulated that she was relocating back to California. Some said she had a shoot lined up, while others claimed she missed city life. I didn't inquire. I didn't need to know. On the morning when the moving truck arrived, I watched from my window sipping coffee. She didn't knock or wave goodbye, and honestly, I didn't expect her to. But as she walked toward the truck, she turned around for just one glance. Not at me, but at the house, the street, the quiet life she briefly touched, but never truly belonged to. And then she was gone. Later that evening, Sarah and I sat on the back porch, watching our kids play. As the sun set, casting warm golden light across our yard. "I'm really glad we're here," she said. "Me too," I replied sincerely. Sometimes temptation doesn't manifest as a mistake. Sometimes it serves as a reminder of what you already possess and how easily it can slip away. Although physically unfaithful never occurred, I mentally danced on the brink of something that could have shattered everything. And choosing to walk away from that wasn't easy. But it felt right, because ultimately, I'm not just a man with desires. I'm a husband, a father, a man who understands the distinction between fantasy and reality, and I'll never confuse them again.